Appeals Board. I should wait, huh? Good evening. I hereby call the regular meeting of the Administrative Appeals Board of January 24th, 2024 to order. Board Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Board Member Parker.
Here.
Vice Chair Panessa.
Here.
Chair Sinclair.
Here.
3 members present, 2 are absent.
Our first item is the acceptance of the agenda. The board can discuss and amend the agenda order. I would like to entertain a motion and second for acceptance of the agenda.
I move to accept. I'll second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
Board Secretary, please call the vote.
Vice Chair Panessa.
Aye.
Board Member Parker.
Aye.
And Chair Sinclair.
Aye.
Passes 3-0.
The next item is public comment. The time is set aside for members of the public to address the board on items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. 3 minutes will be assigned to each speaker. While the board values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, the board generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda. Testimony for hearings will be taken at this time. Board Secretary, please begin the public comment period.
We have no signed up public commenters.
Our first hearing tonight is the appeal of the administration decision that Anthony Natali and David Zelikowski are permanently ineligible to operate a vacation rental in the city of Palm Springs, and the administrative fine of $5,000 for operating an unregistered vacation rental property located at 105 Rock Canyon Road, Palm Springs, California. Board Secretary, please ensure that all the staff and appellant understand their testimony is under oath.
We do have signed affidavits from city staff and appellants in person. Anyone on Zoom who desires to testify under this appeal hearing under the laws of perjury, if you choose to speak, you hereby accept and acknowledge that your testimony shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You may begin.
Staff, please state your name and present your report.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Chair. My name is Patrick Clifford with the Department of Special Program Compliance, and we oversee the vacation rental program here in the city of Palm Springs. Vice Chair, board member, and Chair, staff report in front of you this evening is for the property located at 105 Canyon Rock Road here in the city of Palm Springs. It was found that this property was operating as a vacation rental, a short-term vacation rental without a short-term vacation rental certificate. Included in your staff report is findings that led to the issuance of the citation from the code officer. And additionally, the code officer is here this evening to provide further statement on the investigation that led to the investigation of the advertisement, as well as the issuance to the city or the citation. And I believe the officer is on Zoom to provide further testimony. Thank you.
Officer, would you state your name and begin your testimony?
Yes, good evening, members of the board, my fellow city staff, and members of the public with us tonight. My name is Jacob Gonzalez. I'm a co-compliance officer for the city of Palm Springs.
Jeff, is it possible for you to put your video on?
Let's see.
Should be in the lower left-hand corner.
Give me 1 second here. Sorry about that. It looks like I'm having some difficulties.
That's all right. Proceed, Jay.
Alrighty. Again, as I was saying, on October 15th, 2023, while conducting a review of available rental listings on the web-based booking platform Airbnb.com, I came across an advertisement in the Mesa neighborhood titled Mid-Century Duplex Upper Unit in Prime Location, which can be found as attachment number 5 in the staff report. While reviewing the advertisement, it stated that the entire guest house was being offered for short-term stays with a minimum night stay of 3 nights. I was unable to find the city ID number listed as required by vacation rental property, so I reviewed the photos contained within the ad and was able to positively identify the property address as 105 Canyon Rock Road. Upon review of the city's vacation rental registration records, I confirmed that the property identified did not hold a vacation rental or home share registration certificate. I then sent the message to via Airbnb.com contact host feature inquiring about the week-long stay in November. The message was, hello, I was looking to book for about a week in November, 11/26 to 12/1, and was wondering how far away from downtown this was. The host, David, responded to my inquiry with the following unique response. It's about 5 to 8 minute drive downtown. Have you used Airbnb before? I responded back, oh, perfect. Is there any availability for those dates? To which David responded, yes, there are available. And subsequently sent me an invitation to book my requested short-term stay of 5 nights, November 26th to December 1st. This exchange is included in the staff report as attachment number 6. As a result of my findings contained within the advertisement, the unique response to my inquiry, as well as the invitation to book the requested 5-night stay, I found the property located at 105 Canyon Rock Road in violation of Palm Springs Municipal Code 5.25040A, operating a home share interest without a registration certificate, and issued this citation AB 0615 to the property owner on title, Anthony Natali and David Zelkowski. And that'll conclude what I have to present. I'll hand it back over to Patrick, but I'm available for any questions if the board may have any.
Thank you, officer. Mr. Clifford,
And I have nothing further for that. Thank you.
are there questions from the board?
I have one. I don't know if it's for the officer or for Patrick. Were all of the taxes received on this? Do we know if they were up to date?
So with respect to the transient occupancy tax, there would be none submitted to the city, at least from our understanding, because there was no transient occupancy permit issued to the property.
Okay.
For them to collect and remit.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Vanessa?
Excuse me, so just one question from me. Just looking at the staff report, it looks like there are a variety, many reviews, and are highlighted the ones that give away, roughly how long people stayed in the property. So I guess from your perspective, in your investigation, it looks like, would it be fair to say that this property was being rented as a short-term rental for a long period of time and many rentals?
Yeah, I would say that was correct. We caught it because it was a home share. It didn't have a registration certificate, and that ordinance has been in place for a while now.
Okay, and you just described it as a home share, but it isn't, from my understanding, a home share. It's actually was being rented short term, where the owner was not there with the guests. The guests were getting the entire place. Is that correct?
So it's an entire guest house that's being advertised. It's a home share, classified as a home share, because the owner should be on site. Whether or not that's happening, I can't speak to that, but it is a home share. It's classified as a home share.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Anything else from the city?
I was just further clarify, maybe the reason why it was issued as a home share certificate versus a vacation rental is that since it was positively identified that it was the guest house that was being rented, maybe no evidence led to showing that the full property was being used, but no other additional evidence showed that the owner was not living there at the same time as well. So staff issued for the home share violation based on what that evidence found.
And that violation is the same regardless of the type of permit they have or don't have.
That's correct. It's an administrative fine of $5,000, and as well as a permanent ineligibility to future use as vacation home share.
Excuse me, this is the interpreter asking for clarification. Am I hearing you saying it is a permanent, was it a permit or a permanent inability to rent?
My apologies, that's a permanent ineligibility.
Permanent ineligibility.
But not for rentals over 30 days.
And I would just clarify that from vacation rentals, our ordinance standpoint, long-term rental is considered 29 days or longer.
Okay.
Patrick, can I ask one more question? Is the homestay term, I think, that you used, and the vacation rental, were those always together as considered the same in terms of the ordinance? Or were they separate at one time and then they came together?
So there, at one point, there was conversation as far as the penalties applied to the home share. Because if you look in our definitions in the ordinance, it does talk about vacation rentals and home shares.
Yeah.
And the terminology in the violations section does talk about anyone that operates a vacation rental. However, that was clarified with an administrative regulation to include that the use of a home share is supported with that violation too. And that admin regulation is on our website, and I can pull up the date of when that was issued. So
Anything else?
I'll clarify the admin regulation date here.
Okay.
There's an administrative regulation dated October 2023, so just here in the fall, is where it was the regulation that the operation of a home share interest in violation of 5.25 included without limitation operated home share interest without a registration certificate shall be subject to the same penalties as a person who operates a vacation rental in violation of chapter 5.25, including operating without a vacation rental registration certificate. This includes a criminal, civil, and administrative fine, suspension, and ineligibility penalties set forth in 5.25090. And that administration was dated October 4th, 2023.
So just so I understand, so does that mean that prior to that clarity that you just pointed out in October, the home share, I don't know if I'm saying it right, was okay?
Not okay to operate, it's just a different penalty that was applied.
Okay.
So we would issue based off the specific prohibition section, which was the penalty at that time was a $500 penalty. And we would not apply the permanent ineligibility. We would allow them to correct and apply in past cases.
Okay. So all this did was marry the two penalties together, so they were consistent.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, this is the interpreter again. Sorry, that was a lot of very fast talk and I missed the part about the previous penalty was $500 and not a permanent ineligibility to rent, but rather, that's the part I missed.
That's correct.
But rather what?
So prior to this administrative regulation on October 4th, the penalties that were set forth for operating a home share without a certificate was a $500 fine, and that permanent ineligibility did not apply at that time.
Okay.
Can you say the date of that administrative clarification?
Of course, October 4th, 2023.
Okay, and then Officer Jake, the citation was issued in October. When in October?
I would have found the advertisement on October 15th.
October 15th. Okay, so thank you. My question then is for the city attorney. Would, if the rentals were occurring before that clarification, would the new penalty apply to them? Or not, would the clarification apply, or should it be the old penalty?
I think because the advertisement was in place prior to or during this period of transition, I would look to kind of the date of the violation and what penalty was in place at that time.
Okay, and then so based on what you're saying, the clarification came the beginning of October. It was a couple of weeks later when the violation occurred, or it's caught, I guess.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? At this time, I would like to open the appeal hearing. The appellant is invited to speak for up to 10 minutes. Although in this case, because of the interpreter, we'll give you a little extra time if you need it. Any members of the public who desire to speak on this appeal hearing shall have up to 3 minutes to speak. If any member of the public testifies, the appellant will be invited to provide rebuttal for up to an additional 2 minutes. So we're ready for testimony.
Does this, yeah, and then just press the button. It'll turn green when it's on. There you go. Hello, thank you very much for having me. I'm Anthony Natale, and the interpreter's name is Celine Di Miranda. Is my voice okay? Do you need me louder?
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you very much for allowing me to be here today. I appreciate your time to hear my appeal about the citation that I received. I have stopped my advertisements on Airbnb and want to do what is necessary in order to rectify this. So please accept my honest apology. I honestly had no idea that I was required to have a registration certificate. I have always been someone who's followed the rules, and if I had known that that is what I had needed, I would have done that, and I would not have wanted to move forward without it. I have been a proud resident of Palm Springs for over 12 years, since 2013, when I purchased a duplex with plans to make it my permanent home and to retire in Palm Springs. I live in the downstairs unit, and occasionally I rent the upstairs unit in order to supplement my income. And as a deaf person, it has been a struggle to seek gainful employment, especially in any capacity that requires communication skills. I would say it's been impossible. I have been extremely fortunate in that regard, however, and I have I've been extremely fortunate, but as I become older, opportunities for employment have become more and more limited. The only reason that this is important to me is that I am extremely close, one of the reasons this is extremely important to me is that I'm extremely close to my family, my mother, my sister, and my nieces who come frequently to visit, and my downstairs unit has only 2 bedrooms. The upstairs unit is very small. It's only 400 square feet and 1 bedroom, but it allows them a place to stay when they come to visit me. I have always been an independent person, and I'm blessed to be in a long-term relationship with my partner, David, who is in the audience, for almost 30 years. We have always taken care of our finances separately, however, and the reason that David's name is registered or listed on the Airbnb rental is because it became extremely difficult to communicate with my tenants, and they were not at all comfortable going through an interpreter in order to talk to me, and as such, we added him so that if there were any issues that would come up, he could be the primary contact, and then he would forward any issues to me to deal with or to resolve. The plan is for David to move in permanently when he retires. And since I received this notice, I downloaded the application. I am now aware of what needs to be done in order to rent the unit officially. And let me repeat what I was saying. I downloaded the application and I now know what needs to be done in order to be in compliance. And I would like to be a contributing member of the community in order to give back to Palm Springs. So forgive me, my English is not great. I do use ASL to communicate, and I've tried my very best in order to read through the regulations in English as they are posted. But with all due respect, I would like you to consider waiving my fine and allowing me to bring myself into compliance in order to continue with my ability to live independently and as a contributing member of Palm Springs, rent my duplex unit. So please do not take away my livelihood. And I hope that you will see that I have considered this seriously and am doing my best to be in compliance. Thank you. Thank you.
Any questions from the board?
Yes, I have a question. So who was it that set up the Airbnb ad?
Airbnb helped me do it.
Okay, but it was you kind of working through the steps.
What do you mean working through the steps?
So there are a variety of steps one goes through to set up that ad. And the reason I'm asking who set it up is I know that once you put in that the property is in Palm Springs, there are pop-up windows to remind you that there are regulations or city rules around short-term rentals. They don't necessarily tell you what they are, I don't think, but they remind you that there are rules and that it's your responsibility to make sure you're in compliance. So that's why I'm asking who set it up, because
Yes,
you should have seen those.
I understand, but I did not read that part because I had a friend who was helping me make the listing. So really, I gave him the content as I wanted it done, and then then we started testing it one day at a time, and it proceeded from there. And I just assumed that Airbnb would have been taking care of those kinds of issues or alerting me if there had been any problems, but I never heard anything.
Thank you.
But I am certainly willing to be compliant, as I've said before. I mean, I want to do whatever I need to do in order to, if I have to always have an interpreter with me in order to make sure that my limited English skills are compensated for, or if there's anything that I need to do along those lines in order to do the process correctly, I will do that.
Other questions?
I just have a clarification question.
Uh-huh.
I think you said that the Airbnb is in your name. However, David helps with the day-to-day things for tenants. Is that correct?
No. David's name was listed as the contact, but I did the work for him.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Even though I own the duplex. And we're partners, so that's how that worked out.
I don't have anything else.
Is that it?
That is.
Now I'd like to open this up for discussion and further questions by the board.
Sure, please.
Do you want me to stay here then?
Yes, please.
Okay.
First thing I need to do is to explain that this is an ordinance that is referred to as being strict liability, which means we don't have any leeway. When a violation occurs, we cannot waive the fine or the ban or anything else.
I'm sorry, waive the fine or the what?
Or anything else
Oh.
that's involved with this. It places a burden on us at times. And this board, back when I first came on almost 6 years ago, we used to get in a little bit of trouble with the city and the city attorney because we were trying to be a little more lenient than the ordinance allows. So, having said that, we don't have any leeway in this matter. Once a violation has been admitted, while we would perhaps like to be sympathetic in a number of cases we've had, the ordinance does not allow us to do that. So if there are no more questions or comments, does somebody have a motion?
Well, before I get to the motions, I guess what I would add to what you've said, that you know, the ordinance is very strict. We know that it is intentionally very strict. When somebody comes to us and you know, we're not questioning their intentions, but when somebody comes to us and acknowledges that they were renting without a permit, it kind of puts us in a position of, you know, there was nothing done in error by the compliance officers. The error was by the homeowner. And that's, in my mind, you know, one of the reasons the ordinance is so strict is, you know, to make people really do what they have to do to be in compliance. So, in discussion amongst us, from my perspective, I mean, the appellant has been, you know, clear his intention wasn't to violate the ordinance, but in fact he did. And if somebody was helping him and they, you know, kind of didn't tell him about those screens that pop up that tell you the city has a lot of rules about this, you know, that's unfortunate. But as we all know, the ordinance is written that the onus is on the owner, regardless of who makes the mistake.
I'll just add to both of you that just to sort of reiterate also what I think we've said before, which is whatever we decide here does not prevent the appellant from leasing the property for 29 days or longer. But from a long-term rental perspective, this is just a short-term rental violation.
Is there a motion?
I would move to uphold the fine and the ban on getting it from it.
Is there a second?
Let me ask another question before we
Sure.
get out of the city, or maybe it's the city council, not the city council, the council. I'm struggling with the dates, and I think you probably gathered that from our earlier questions. Had the citation happened 2 weeks earlier, the penalty would have been different. At least what I'm hearing from you. Right?
That's correct.
And it looks like the property has been rented regularly, routinely for over 3 years. And just, it was the date thing. So I guess question for council, is there any way for us to still uphold the penalty, but use the former penalty that was in place when the ad was first placed on Airbnb?
I would say no, although it's a difficult position to be in. You know, you have to look at the date that the violation was issued and what the penalties were in place at the time that the violation.
Okay.
Let me ask this of Patrick. When was the last rental date of the Airbnb? Was it before the ordinance was modified?
Yeah, I can check from what we have as evidence as reviews. And, you know, I will let the code officer chime in if it's additional information that I don't see, but from the advertisement that I see, the last guest review was May 2023.
So that would be the correct dates that I have too. Is let's look at like May.
However, on the
I can chime in here. I think I understand the point of the question. What I guess I would remind my colleagues is that it's that interaction that was on October 15th. That's the one that drove the violation. And, because we have seen over and over again cases where there were no rentals and there was an interaction with a compliance officer that was without a permit, and that resulted in a fine and the ban on getting a permit. So from my perspective, and based on the feedback we're getting from the council, all those rentals before that didn't matter because it's that one interaction that drove this citation.
Yeah, okay.
So is there a second?
Thank you for the clarity. I appreciate that. I'll second the motion. Thank you.
Okay. Board Secretary, would you call the roll?
Vice Chair Vanessa,
Aye.
Board Member Parker,
Aye.
Chair Sinclair.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0 to adopt the resolution upholding the administrative decision.
So that concludes our hearing. We have upheld the fine. Remember, it's 29 days or more, you can still rent. And the city will be in touch with you with regard to terms for paying the administrative fine. Thank you. So our next item is item 5, bill of administrative citations A7707. Any administrative decision of a 2-year suspension of the vacation rental registration certificate for the property located at 1122 East Via San Michael, Palm Springs. And an administrative fine of $500. Board Secretary, please ensure the city staff and the appellant understand their testimony is under oath.
We do have signed affidavits from city staff and appellant in person. Anyone on Zoom who desires to testify under this appeal hearing, under the laws of perjury, if you choose to speak, you hereby accept and acknowledge that your testimony shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Yeah.
Mr. Clifford, would you please begin the staff report?
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, Board Member, City staff, and public joining us this evening. My name is Patrick Clifford with the Department of Special Program Compliance, and we oversee the vacation rental program here in the city of Palm Springs. Before you this evening is a staff report related to the property located at 1122 East Via San Michael here in Palm Springs. Some background with the property is this property is a registered vacation rental here in the city with certificate number 5311 with a start date of January 4th, 2023. It was brought to staff's attention that this property had obtained 3 administrative citations within a 12-month period. In your staff report is a brief summary of each citation that has been issued, as well as a table that shows the respective dates, the citation number, and the violation that was found. The code officer that investigated each of those 3 violations is here on the Zoom with us and can provide further testimony at the time. Additionally, with respect to our municipal code, when 3 violations are found within a 12-month period, the city manager shall suspend the vacation rental certificate for a period of 2 years. This suspension was effective October 9th, 2023, and that is included in the staff report as attachment 7. I would like to ask the code officer that led the investigation for the violations to provide further testimony, specifically the 3rd citation that led to the issuance of a suspension, which is citation A7707. With respect to failing to respond with an audit. So at this time, the code officer can please provide further testimony. Thank you.
Officer Whitaker, would you please, if you can, use your video, there you are, and begin your testimony?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Uh-oh, I just lost. There we go. Hi, so good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board, my fellow city staff, and members in attendance for this evening's hearing. My name is Jason Whitaker, and I'm a Code Compliance Officer for the City of Palm Springs. On Sunday, September 3rd, 2023, I responded to an active nuisance call for the property located at 1122 East Via San Michael. During my investigation regarding the active nuisance, it was determined that the property was operating as a short-term vacation rental at that time, as confirmed by the occupants staying at the property. Upon review of the city's file-keeping database, it was also determined that a contract summary was not submitted for this particular guest stay. Upon my return back to my office, I researched further into the rental history of this property and was unable to locate any contract summary submissions, not only for this particular weekend stay, but for any prior short-term stay since the property was issued a short-term rental registration certificate in January of 2023. As this property did not have a history of contract summary submissions, I initiated an audit as per PSMC section 5.25.080, which states each owner and agent or representative of any owner shall provide the enforcement official with access to each vacation rental and the books, records, documents, papers, tax returns, and bank accounts at any time during normal business hours as the enforcement official may determine are necessary or convenient for the purpose of inspection or audit to determine that the objectives and conditions of this chapter are being fulfilled. Evidentiary findings, such as the particular short-term guest stay that I responded to on September 3rd, 2023, along with an Airbnb advertisement for this property that included guest reviews indicative of short-term stays, further substantiated the fact that this property was operating on a short-term basis. I then attempted to make contact with the property owner by phone on September 3rd, 2023, and I left a detailed voicemail in which I explained that an audit was going to be initiated with their property. And then I stated that I would be requesting certain documentation. I also followed up with a detailed email on the same date to the property owner, which can be found under attachment number 5, page 56 of the staff report. In my request, I also established a deadline of September 5th, 2023, in which the homeowner was to respond to me with the requested documentation. In addition to my request, I also included both my contact information as well as my supervisor's contact information if the property owner had any questions. Leading up to the established deadline of September 5th, 2023, the homeowner did not attempt to contact myself or my supervisor. After the deadline of September 5th, 2023 had passed, I re-verified via the property owner rental registration certificate application, as well as the Department of Special Program Compliance master list, that the contact information that I was using to attempt to make contact was the most current information we had on file. After confirming that there were no discrepancies in the owner's contact information, I left a secondary voicemail and sent a follow-up email to the property owner on September 7th, 2023 at 11:51 a.m. In my communication, I extended the deadline from September 5th, 2023 to September 7th, 2023 on or before 3 p.m. Since the first deadline had passed. As I was reasonable with my attempts to contact the property owner along with an established deadline followed by an extension to the original deadline, I still did not receive a response from the property owner before, during, or after the secondary deadline. As such, I issued administrative citation A7707 on September 8th, 2023 for violating PSMC section 5.25.070J, which states failure of the owner or his agent to respond to calls or complaints regarding the condition, operation, or conduct of occupants of the vacation rental in a timely manner or appropriate manner shall be grounds for imposition of penalties as set forth in this chapter. It is not intended that an owner, agent, or local contact person act as a peace officer or place himself or herself in an at-risk situation. A copy of the citation, notice of violation, and my email correspondence to the property owner can all be found under attachment number 6, pages 53 through page 57 of the staff report. As of this evening's hearing, I have still not received any communication, whether by email or phone, from the appellant concerning providing the requested documents. This demonstrates that the appellant has been negligent about the rules and regulations that have been established by the city for owners and operators that hold a short-term registration certificate. And I also had supplied this deputy city clerk, Cassandra, this afternoon with just another screen grab from Airbnb, the Airbnb advertisement, in which and just going back to the suspension, I guess I jumped ahead a little bit, sorry. There is a suspension letter that you'll find under attachment 7, pages 59 through 60 of the staff report. In that suspension letter is mentioned that the effective date of the 2-year suspension would take place on October 9th, 2023. And then going back to the additional documentation provided to Cassandra this afternoon, you'll see that in the Airbnb advertisement that is still live as of this afternoon, there were 2 reviews in October and another 2 in November of 2023, which demonstrates that the property is still operating. Also going to where the appellant statement, appeal statement that's under attachment number 3, pages 12 through 14 of the staff report. They mention, quote, issues with communication due to citations being mailed to one address and violations sent to another address. We have used all of the property addresses that, for mailing. We run title. We ensure that all of the addresses that we have on file are where we're sending our correspondence to. And that includes both the actual property address where the violations occurred, as well as the owner's address. So that will conclude my testimony. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Did I miss whether there was a vacation rental certificate on this property?
That correct. That is correct. There is a vacation rental certificate for this property.
Questions from the board?
Officer Whitaker, I just have one question. Was the reason for the audit request because there was no contract summary for that visit of the violation, or you noticed there were no contract summaries, period?
Sure. So what led to the investigation was the initial call to the property for an active nuisance. Every time we respond to a vacation rental call where there is an active nuisance, we also have to verify that there was a contract summary submission on file. And then obviously when I ran that data in our system, there were no results from that particular guest stay. And just it also allows you to view any history of any other submissions for that property address, and there were none.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything further, Mr. Parker?
No.
Mr. Panessa?
So in your testimony, you talked about reaching out to the homeowner. Was it by phone, by USPS, and by email? Was it by any one of those or all of those?
All of those.
Okay. And then the owner in their appeal had brought up that you had said the owner brought up that there was an issue with communication. Was that letter with the suspension, does that go in the same way, USPS and email, or?
Actually, I can answer that. So when we issue out the suspension letter, that will be certified to the mailing address that we have on record. The code officer mentioned master list. What a master list is basically our vacation rental database with all the properties. So what mailing address we have on file, that's where we're going to certify the suspension letter. And then we'll also mail a copy to the vacation rental address to try to make sure at least one document was delivered.
Okay, so based on what you just said, so that suspension letter would have gone to the owner via certified mail, to whatever address you have on file, all those previous correspondence would have gone to that same address, correct?
I can let Officer Whitaker, advise about additional mailing addresses. Sometimes if a citation is returned back and they're not able to determine that address, they might look for additional mailing addresses, because it might change from our record, but that might be something he looked into, but I'll let him defer to that.
Sure. So we send it not only by certified mail, but by regular mail as well. We'll send a copy, a duplicate of the citation and the notice of violation. That is to ensure that if for whatever reason, the certified mail, if someone doesn't want to sign for it, they're going to receive another secondary copy. And then just going back through the staff report, there is mention at the beginning in the staff report from the city, mention of the citations that were previously issued to the property owner, and those citations were paid in full, which would mean that those citations would have been delivered to the property owner in order for them to have been, for them to acknowledge that they existed and then paid for.
Are there, so, I guess I'm learning something new. There are fines that go with these various infractions, and they were sent a letter. They had to have received it because you're saying they paid the fine.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the board? I have none. So I will open the appeal hearing. The appellant is invited to speak for up to 10 minutes. Any members of the public who wish to speak have an additional, shall have up to 3 minutes, and if a member of the public testifies, the appellant is invited to provide a rebuttal of up to 2 minutes. Please state your name for the record, and you can begin your 10 minutes.
Hello and good evening. My name is Miranda and I am representing Mrs. Gutowski. I stand before you as a member of our community deeply concerned about the recent temporary suspension of the short-term rental permit. While Mrs. Gutowski understands the needs for regulations and the importance of maintaining the peace and harmony in our neighborhoods, I urge you to reconsider this decision for the following reasons. First and foremost, short-term rentals have become an integral part of our local economy. They provide an additional source of income for homeowners, stimulate tourism, and contribute significantly to the overall economic growth of our city. Many family members depend on this income generated from short-term rentals to meet their financial needs, especially in challenging times. These short-term rentals offer a unique and diverse accommodation option for visitors, enhancing the overall tourism experience. By welcoming guests into our homes, we not only share the beauty of Palm Springs, but also create a community and cultural exchange. This in turn fosters a positive image of our city and encourages repeat visits, benefiting local businesses and ensuring the sustained growth of our economy. In a world that often feels disconnected, these interactions help build a stronger, more closely knit community. It is crucial to acknowledge that municipal codes play a pivotal role in governing short-term rentals. I believe these codes may require an adjustment or enhancement, ensuring that the concerns raised are adequately addressed without resorting to a blanket suspension. Before the noise citation that triggered the suspension, the host, including the owner, the Airbnb property in question, took significant steps to ensure responsible hosting. Guests were provided with the Good Neighbor brochure, emphasizing the importance of respecting the tranquility of our neighborhoods. They were also advised to sign the statement and the statement of rules and regulations. In addition, decibel meters were employed to monitor and manage noise levels, demonstrating a commitment to maintaining a peaceful coexistence between short-term renters and permanent residents. Despite these efforts, it is unfortunate that a particular guest who had previously garnered 5-star reviews on their profile disregarded these established norms. This guest received several courtesy calls from the host, and the host went above and beyond by making 2 in-person visits to remind them about the importance of maintaining a reasonable noise volume. Unfortunately, these efforts did not prevent the guests from causing significant disruptions during their stay. To compound the situation, the guests caused over $5,000 in physical damages, a fact that was unknown to the host until after the incident. It is important to highlight that Airbnb has since taken responsibility for covering the costs associated with these damages. This incident underscores the challenges hosts face in managing the actions of guests, especially when the profiles suggest a history of positive interactions. We have maintained 5 stars on our own profile and considered top 1% of Airbnb hosts. In a similar appeal hearing on December 27, 2023, board member Vasily expressed, quote, "I feel it is not fair to penalize someone when someone else is doing something else behind their back," end quote. Mr. Hendrick went on to agree with Mr. Moses and Mr. Vasily. The appeal for this particular homeowner was motion forward by 3 members of the council. Several efforts were made by the homeowners team, including myself, to contact the city in regards to the last citation, failure to respond to 87707. We reached out to Chantel Sterling, a member of the special programs desk, who promptly pulled up our account and informed us that she didn't find any outstanding issues. This gave us a false impression that our account was clear. Myself, having made several in-person visits to City Hall where I met Cassandra, Shaw, and Luce, all of which provided guidance in this particular case. One crucial piece of information is that this property is already booked out in full from the end of January through July 2024. This totals to 13 bookings that would require immediate cancellation. One that happens to hopefully be checking in tomorrow. This contributes significantly to our local economy, with an expected $1,000 in transient occupancy tax per month. This 2-year suspension would result in an approximate $24,000 loss for the city of Palm Springs. The financial impact of this rent goes beyond homeowner, as the TOT collected directly contributes to funding essential city services, infrastructure development, and community initiatives. Suspending the permit for such property not only affects the homeowner's income, but also diminishes a vital revenue stream that benefits the entire community. I would like to bring to your attention that we received the safety inspection renewal on January 18, 2024, and the vacation rental registration renewal application on December 26, 2023. These renewals signify our ongoing commitment to compliance with safety and regulatory standards, reinforcing our dedication to responsible hosting practices. In conclusion, I respectfully urge you to reconsider the decision to temporarily suspend our short-term rental permit in Palm Springs, as several efforts were made to resolve the matter by getting into contact with the special programs desk. By working collaboratively to address concerns through targeted regulations, we can strike a balance that ensures the continued prosperity of our city while preserving the unique character that makes Palm Springs a desirable destination for residents and visitors alike. Thank you for your time and consideration.
I'm going to start with a question. Is someone going to address the actual allegations in this? You didn't speak at all to any of the allegations made by the city. You just gave us a bunch of reasons why we shouldn't do it. But can you tell us anything that would help us as to why there was no response, why it was being rented after the citation, all of those things that were brought up by Mr. Whitaker?
Yes, so I did speak on a little bit about the music problem that we had.
This isn't about the music, this is about the failure to.
Right, and then I also spoke about in the appeal that I wrote before this, that we were having communication problems, so we didn't realize that the local contact that was listed on the 2023 form was not a current contact. So the homeowner was under the impression that the city had the correct information. Since I had been going in person and meeting with everybody, I had email chains with different members of the city, so we were just under the impression that we had the correct information, but the city had our correct contact information. And then another problem that we were having, we have 2 mailboxes on the property. So we have one that's wall mounted to our door, right next to the door. And then we have one about 2 houses down, that's a shared mailbox for the whole neighborhood, and we each have our own slot. And we weren't receiving the suspension, we didn't receive it through that one.
But
So-
you received the letters on all the other violations.
Yes, we had received all the other ones, however, those were going to Mrs. Gutowski's accounting team in Los Angeles.
You don't own the property,
I do not own the property.
and what is your relationship?
I am the property owner's personal assistant.
Okay.
And local contact.
Thanks. Mr. Parker?
Yeah, can I just tag on to that last question that you had? It's unfortunate Mrs. Gutowski's not here. I have a question for her, but maybe you can help us here. Just following up on what she said, the various emails, voicemails, letters, some which she stated weren't received, yet each of the fines were paid.
Yes,
How did that happen?
so the fines were being sent to her accounting office, which is located in Los Angeles, and that's what I was being forwarded from her accounting team. And so myself and her accounting team were working together to get those citations paid.
But those are in the same, that's in one letter.
Right, so the last one, the suspension, that's the one that we received later on. So since we were having that mailbox issue, her accounting team claims that they did not receive that themselves. I'm the one who got it when a neighbor dropped off a stack of our mail that they had received in their slot, which was sometime in October, which is why the property was being rented out after the suspension. And immediately when I received that letter, I came in that same day, I spoke with Cassandra, I told her everything that happened, and she kind of walked me through the steps of what I needed to do to get the appeal going. And I met with, like I said, I met with Luce, and I met with, there's one other, Shaw, I believe it was Shaw. And then I spent a good week coming in and out of City Hall just to make sure I had all the information I needed. I realized now that we didn't provide the documents that were requested by Mr. Whitaker, I believe, but since I wasn't copied on any of the emails, I didn't see them, and the homeowner's email was not active. So I have since provided a new email for the homeowner, as well as my email and the team's email, which is now current on the 2024 renewal application.
Any other questions, Mr. Parker?
No, I was gonna drive that point home further, but I think that
Thanks.
been done.
Mr. Vanessa?
So, excuse me, a few questions. So, who filled out the permit application?
For which year? For the
Either
2023
or 2024?
That one was filled out by the homeowner. 2023 was filled out by the homeowner. I was not yet hired by her. I was hired shortly after that, and then the 2024 form was filled out by myself. I did reference the 2023. There were some adjustments that were made, and she read through it, everything, signed it, gave me the okay. I came and dropped that off in person, December 26th.
Okay, and the reason I asked that,
Yes.
pardon me, is that if she filled out that application,
Yes.
if the contact information was incorrect, that was from her. So, if she filled out that application, she knew, about the contract summaries being a requirement, she would have had to initial by that.
Mhm.
So if there was a contact person disconnect in the information, in my opinion, that originated with her. She gave the city the wrong information. So I'm struggling with saying, oh, we weren't getting this stuff, when in fact she gave the city bad contact information. I guess this is kind of what the chair had brought up, but your testimony was really about how important vacation rentals are to the city and to the city's economy. But aside from your response, I didn't hear a lot about the actual citations. If the owner knew that she had to, respond, she had to do the contract summaries, why was she not, my question, I guess, is why was she not staying on top of that?
So it's my understanding that she was not seeing these emails as quickly as they needed to be seen. By that time, it was too late. And so had we not gotten that music citation, probably would be here right now. It's essentially what triggered all of this. And so we've since, implemented all these new steps that we're taking just to make sure that her accounting team and myself and her are all working together, because at the time, I guess, people were thinking things were getting done when they weren't, and it's a lack of communication. I'm not sure why the homeowner didn't update the contact information. She had told me that she did. I'm not sure if it just kind of slipped through the cracks there, but that's essentially what happened.
Any other questions?
And not for me, no.
Uh-oh.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. I'd like to open this for discussion by the board and additional questions. Mr. Parker, anything more?
No, I mean, I think it's clear that the violations occurred. I think it's clear that I'm still not understanding the difference between the emails not answered timely, but there were voicemails left too on the same phone that they had communicated on before. And it looks like the property is still being advertised today. And we still haven't received the document. The city has not received the documentation requested today, so.
Mr. Vanessa?
So I guess I have a similar perspective. Based on the testimony from the owner's assistant, it seems to me like the owner, it's coming across as though the owner took a very hands-off on this and maybe didn't take this as seriously as she should have. Even to the point of when they got a suspension letter, they still continue to rent. I always struggle with when people come before us and say, well, we weren't getting this information, we weren't getting the emails, but they were responding to some of them. So I find it,
and paying the associated fines.
yeah, so I find it, somebody hearing the appeal, I find it not credible that they weren't getting the stuff, if in fact they were paying the fines.
Yeah.
That something was getting through, and I just feel like they just were not taking this seriously. The testimony was that she filled out the application. So based on what we have seen here, those checklists that people have to initial, the owner knew what was required of it. From the testimony, I'm just not hearing that they took it seriously. Both the citations, but also the operating. And so that's, in my mind, that's why we're where we are.
If there's no other discussion, may I have a motion?
I move that we uphold the 2-year suspension and the fine.
I'll second.
Board Secretary, would you call the roll?
Board Member Parker,
Aye.
Vice Chair Panessa,
Aye.
Chair Sinclair.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0 to adopt the resolution upholding the administrative decision.
So the administrative decision has been upheld. I assume you'll call tonight and make sure people don't move in there tomorrow. And the city will be monitoring for the next 2 years to make sure that there are no further moves. Thank you for your time. Let's move on to the next. The next hearing is the appeal of the administrative decision of a 6-month suspension of the vacation rental certificate and the administrative fine of $2,500 to Salim and Roxana Salim for the property located at 3770 Mesquite Avenue, Palm Springs. Board Secretary, would you ensure the city staff and the appellant understand the testimony is under oath?
We do have signed affidavits from city staff and appellant that's in person. Anyone on Zoom who desires to testify under this appeal hearing under the laws of perjury, if you choose to speak, you hereby accept and acknowledge that your testimony shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You may begin.
Okay, Mr. Clifford.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, Board Member, City staff, and public with us this evening. My name is Patrick Clifford with the Department of Special Program Compliance, and we oversee the vacation rental program here in the city of Palm Springs. Before you this evening is a staff report related to the property 3770 Mesquite Avenue here in Palm Springs. It was found after a code compliance investigation that this property had operated as a short-term vacation rental, but had not provided contract summaries as required by our municipal code. Accordingly, the violation for not providing contract summaries before each short-term vacation rental stay is a penalty of $2,500 and a 6-month suspension of their vacation rental certificates. In your staff report, you'll see attachments, specifically attachment 6, which shows a review of the contract summary. And in attachment 7 in your staff report is the 6-month suspension letter from our office with an effective date of December 18th, 2023. The code officer that investigated the property is here with us this evening, and I would invite Code Officer Ingram to the table to provide further testimony. Thank you.
Officer Ingram, welcome, and please state your name for the record and give us your report.
Good evening, members of the board, my fellow city staff, members of the community joining us in person or via Zoom. My name is Jonathan Ingram. I'm a code compliance officer for the city of Palm Springs. On Wednesday, November 1st, while reviewing vacation rental contract summary data in response to a report received via community lead regarding frequent short-term rental stays, it was found that the property located at 3770 Mesquite Ave had not submitted any summary or abstracts of the written contract as required for a short-term vacation rental stay since the start of their active certificate in December 2022. While contacting the property owner to discuss my findings, I requested records related to the property's operations as a vacation rental for an audit to determine the objectives and conditions of a vacation rental ordinance are being fulfilled. Short-term vacation rentals have a cap of yearly rentals, and contract summaries are a way for the city to track their short-term rental activity. The property owners provided information as requested that confirmed that the property had been operating as a short-term renter within the time in question, and shows the owner has facilitated approximately 22 short-term rental stays and contract stays from December 22 to October of 2023, and failed to submit any contract summaries prior to their guests taking occupancy in each case. So I issued an administrative citation AB 0618 to the property owner on file on November 15, 2022, which puts the property at 3770 Mesquite Ave in violation of 5.25.070H failure to submit contract summary. This concludes my statement. I'm open for any questions on the property or in this case.
Parker, Mr. Vanessa.
So I'll go first. So you initiated your investigation because there was you said a community
Correct.
contact or
Community lead, correct.
Okay, so that is basically somebody contacts the city to complain about something.
Correct, which
that house.
started the audit on the property.
Okay, and we're not talking about that. What we're talking about is no contract summaries.
Correct.
Okay. When did this property get its permit?
In December of 2022, I think they had their renewal.
So originally, I guess
the start date was October 7th, 2021 from the record I show.
Okay, October. And your investigation was in
I was tracking from December 2022 to October 2023. Okay. They had submitted reviews on Airbnb regarding stays at their property.
Okay. And then this, what is it? This is attachment 6 in the staff report lists, what is it, 21, 22. So that at some point they were submitting contract summaries. These were all,
so those are completed reservations for Airbnb.
Okay, okay, I'm sorry. So now I understand. Because this looks like, oh, I see the page before it, which would be the summary of contract summary submitted is blank.
Correct.
And that, okay, so that's showing us that there were no summaries submitted. Okay, so, but based on the summary they provided you, we know there were
active rentals.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Parker?
I just have one question. I think you said the original certificate was issued in October 2021. So there would have been a renewal in October 2022, right?
Yes, apologies, yes, if everything was supplied timely, the renewal would be in October, and there would be more for 2022, and leading into October 2023 as well.
Okay. And so when we go through that renewal process, is it part of the city's process to look back to see if there's contract summaries that have been completed?
Interestingly enough, in this situation, I know it's been conversation that this was a community lead. In fact, this was actually an internal lead from our department that when they received it, I believe the renewal, they found that there was no contract summary submitted and referred it to code compliance.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Clifford, I may be confused, and we've been only dealing with this contract summary issue fairly recently in the last 6 months. I thought there was an enhanced penalty if you do it more than once. So you've got 22 instances here where they didn't submit a contract summary.
So with this situation, the 22 that the code officer found was 22 short-term stays that were verified by a guest reservation. So that is not over the allowed, the permitted, that's not over the permitted limit, which I believe with this property, they're allowed to do 34 plus an additional, 32 plus an additional 4 in the summer.
Maybe you misunderstood my question. There were not contract summaries for any of those 22 visits.
Right.
So my question is that the fact that they did not, that this was not a first time thing, do you not go back and look at the old ones and then that's part of the violation?
So with this, it was just determined that no summaries were submitted. So it's one violation that no contract summaries have been submitted. And it'd be the $2,500 fine and 6 month suspension. When we audit a property and we find that they have operated more than their allotted limit, that's where we would go back and see how many times they went over and apply additional penalties at that time.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much. I have no further questions, so we'll excuse the witness and go on to the appellant's testimony. Mr. Sling, please state your name for the record and begin your testimony.
Yeah, my name is, first of all, good evening, board members and City Hall. My name is Salim Salim. My wife, who's a co-owner of this property, unfortunately cannot attend due to her work schedule as an RN at our local hospital. I'm here today to explain the oversight and an honest mistake made by us in not submitting contract summaries for our rentals. After the initial permit was issued in an email during the COVID restrictions, we were provided a lot of additional information by a staff member to help us understand all the attachments and processes to comply with the city's VR rules and regulations. I do recall going over the importance of how to post the city ID certificate, the good neighbor brochure, regulations on number of guests, visitors, cars, noise, loud music, trash, the yearly limit of rentals, navigating the TOT portal for paying taxes, the delinquent dates, calendar, completion and emailing of the partially pre-filled zero tax returns when necessary for a zero income month. As you can imagine, this is a lot of information to take in, and I did the best I could in retaining and applying it for 2 years now without any warning that I may have missed something or clearly being told about the contract summary missing, its importance and what the consequences are if we do provide that information. If we do not provide that information. Unfortunately, after covering all those items in person, I do not recall going over the contract summary filing and the importance of it. While we now have been made aware of it without any prior warning, And this we immediately acted upon, and while complying with all other policies. You'll find that we've been diligent with all other required reporting payments, and providing any other required information whenever appropriate, except the contract summary. Upon request from Jonathan Ingram, I swiftly provided the complete spreadsheet of our rentals to the code compliance requirement. He asked for, without any hesitation. I would not be up here right now if I was made aware of the importance of this policy upfront, or if a single warning was sent explaining what we may have missed over this time. We're hoping our reputation and due diligence does display that this was in fact an innocent oversight, and that we we have nothing to hide whilst respecting and following the rules and regulations in place. There is no monetary gain for us to not provide the city with a contract summary, but there is a big loss of income for us as a couple if we have to suspend our bookings for 6 months. Not only that, but my wife and I have raised the bar in our guest vetting process, which has led to a very successful 2 years of renting without any complaints or incidents. And we do believe in not only following the rules, but having a very good standing in our community and the city. I've been a Rotarian as well for over 12 years and followed the 4-way test in my personal and business life. Given that we are first-time users of the vacation rental program in the city of Palm Springs, we do feel the $2,500 fine, and more importantly, the interruption of the renting of our home for the next 6 months is harsh for the innocent reasons that I've stated. We can promise you that this will never happen again, and it has certainly been a learning lesson for us. We respectfully request that you grant our appeal and allow us to continue to rent the property. It's our heaviest time of rental, the next 6 months. And I thank you in advance for all your understanding and valuable time and service that you guys provide.
Thank you, Mr. Salim. Anything else from the city?
I did want to add, Chair, that when we see properties that have been in permit for a few years, we look back to see if communication has been received. But we do have quite a few newsletters that go out that talk about contract summaries, and we've done a few Zoom education sessions that talk about contract summaries and try to give like an example of how to go do that. I verified if that email address that we have on file for this property owner is in our mass email list. It's not. And that's pretty much where we communicate the upcoming education videos or the newsletters that's safe for requirement. I apologize as you put those examples in there, but based off the information I see there, the email was not in our mass email distribution to provide those documents to the property owner.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry,
Thank you for your test.
Questions?
Yeah. And that's another part that we had not, and I'm glad that's been mentioned. We've not received any ongoing communication in that respect to do with, which would have reminded us. And I really am having a difficult time kind of coming to terms that we've done everything from A to Z and missing out a C, I guess. That's what's happened with it, in our case.
Thank you. Questions?
I guess one, who filled out the application?
I did,
Okay,
with my wife.
okay, and
Knowledge.
so when you filled that application out, you had to initial that page that has all those bullet points on it. I'm not sure what that page is called, but that page calls out the contract summaries. I believe there's another spot that we've seen in the past where the city puts in big bold letters. You know, the contract summaries are required and the penalties for it. I guess I'm struggling with, and maybe you can help me, if you were so diligent with every other aspect, that's a pretty big component to let slide. I guess we've seen many times how often the city reminds people of that. So maybe you can help us with how the ball got dropped with that, because that's a pretty big one.
I went back and looked at the email that generates the certificate and the application prior to that we filled in. Without a doubt, when I re-look back at that, yes, there is a place that we signed which mentioned contract summary. And there's a whole bunch of them. All of us have been through documentation signing as well, whether it's our loan docs, whether it's car buying docs, whatever we do. And from what I have seen and known, most of us, yes, we look at the bigger things and important parts, or something that's been pointed out by the person that's helping us at that time with the loans. And they're saying, and we went through, that's why in the very initial period, we did go through a staff member where we said, can you help us kind of go through? And that's where we feel that, yes, we may have done exactly what you're saying. And I've looked back and we did. There's no getting out of that. But we asked for help. And that was at the very initial stage. From that day onwards, we followed what we recall, what we understood, what we saw, and we did it from those points of view. And even to this day, even right away, as soon as when we were told about this, I've stopped everything. If you look on our Airbnb, everything is stopped other than 30 days. And I canceled the bookings that were forthcoming in December and currently. So anything I needed to take care of, I took care of it right away. I provided all the information that Jonathan asked us. I was actually right in the middle of that week going into 4 surgeries in the hospital, but I still took the important stuff of providing him in time rather than leave it until I come back and then deal with it.
Okay. I have one more question for you. So you received that citation correspondence. Have there been rentals between that time and now?
There are no rentals between that time and now, because right away I stopped the Airbnb. There are rentals pending that are there, but we have enough time to make cancellations for them. And I did check that aspect by calling into the city and figuring out what do I need to do so that I'm still in compliance in that respect.
Okay.
And I was told that yes, that you need to cancel anything that's current, which that is, and I've canceled everything right away, which was up until
from the point you got
the point I got.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification, because I guess my point in that was, if there have been any subsequent rentals, were contract summaries submitted for those, but you're saying there.
I'm sorry, I take that back. There was, prior to actually giving us the actual letter that came from because initially it was inquiries from Jonathan to us, the code compliance officer.
Mm-hmm.
So at that time, there was no question of canceling anything or doing anything. I was told that it's just something that they're auditing and going through. We were also told that it was a community lead, and I hear now today that it wasn't a community lead. I would like to know, however, can we know where that lead came from as well? Beyond that, there was, I believe, one booking that was prior to even any of the letters coming from the city telling us that we cannot do that anymore. And on record, I believe you should have in the city a contract summary for that.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Parker?
Just one question. I think you may have said this either in your response or today. Did you go back since then and into the contract summaries and put in the past?
Not at all.
Visits?
No.
The tool?
No.
Okay.
Only time is the new one rental, I believe. I think it's one. I don't know whether you can verify that one or two. I can't tell you, but I did it right away. I believe it's one. And that's when I knew and found out after Jonathan had also kind of taken me through that there is and I called in to the city compliance special programs office to find out how to fill that form in and submit it online. And that's the only time that I went on that.
Okay.
Portal.
Thank you. And I think you just asked a question earlier, and I think if I heard the city correctly, they mentioned that the certificate renewal process in October,
yeah,
I think it was, that's what triggered the view of the no contract summaries. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, that's correct. When staff received the application for renewal, they noticed no contract summaries for the code.
Is that considered a community lead then?
So when we have a reporting tool, we only have options that says like community lead or hotline call or code complaint. So we'll have like a button that says internal lead. So something's usually selected as community lead. But in this case, I wanted to clarify that while it wasn't something that was reported to our vacation hotline or online to our web app, it was really just a community lead or something that's passing internally.
Okay.
Did I hear Jonathan correctly that it was a community lead?
No, I think what Mr. Clifford just mentioned and corrected that statement to say that the certificate renewal process is what generated the look at the fact that there were no contract summaries submitted prior to that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sung, for your testimony. Discussion or further questions? Start with Mr. Parker or Chair Panessa. Who would like to go first?
Well, I think that's Vice Chair Panessa.
Vice Chair. Well, he was chair for so long. I look up to him.
So, I guess from my perspective, I struggle with when somebody fills out that application. We have seen examples here where, how often the city reminds them throughout that paperwork about the contract summaries. But we know from dozens and dozens of cases that that's how the city knows, is somebody not renting too many times, all of that. As we've talked about over and over and over again, the appellant is saying they didn't do it because they didn't realize they had to. But as we know, this ordinance is very strict. It is intentionally very strict. And not knowing that you had to perform that one little step, even though, in my opinion, the city calls it out so many times is not an excuse. I mean, it sounds like they really worked hard to be in compliance with every other issue. Unfortunately, they let a very big issue or big ball drop. And that's why we're here.
Yeah, I was just going to add that to your comment. I think even in the reviews that were submitted in the packet, even the guests were talking about how detailed the host was and how great their stay was, and some really great reviews. It's too bad that the same attention to detail wasn't applied to this specific issue.
Okay, may I have a motion?
I'll move that we uphold the suspension and the fine.
I'll second.
Board Secretary, would you call the roll?
Board Member Parker,
Aye.
Vice Chair Panessa,
Aye.
Chair Sinclair.
Aye,
Motion carries 3-0 to adopt the resolution upholding the administrative decision.
thank you for your testimony, Mr. Salim, as I
Can I ask
said.
one thing,
No, we're
please,
done.
for this.
You can ask Patrick
City?
after, but we're finished.
Okay.
But as I said at the beginning of the hearings, these are very strict ordinances, and there's not a lot we can do with regard to it.
Sorry.
Thank you for your time. I need a break.
We'll take a recess.
We'll take a 5 minute.
We'll return at 7:00.
Deal of the administrative decision of the Leon Family Trust. In care of Eric Leon Garcia and Carly Leon are permanently ineligible to operate a vacation rental in the city of Palm Springs. An administrative fine of $5,000 for operating an unregistered vacation rental property located at 1900 Lawrence Crosley Road, number 3, Palm Springs, California. Board Secretary, please ensure that the staff and the appellant understand their testimony is under oath.
We do have signed affidavits from city staff and appellant in person. Anyone on Zoom who desires to testify under this appeal hearing, under the laws of perjury, if you choose to speak, you hereby accept and acknowledge that your testimony shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You may begin.
Mr. Clifford, please begin your testimony.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, a board member, city staff, and public joining us this evening. My name is Patrick Clifford with the Department of Special Program Compliance. We oversee the vacation rental program here in the city of Palm Springs. Before you is a staff report for the property located at 1900 Lawrence Crosley Road, number 3. Some background on this property is that our Department of Special Program Compliance did receive an application for a vacation rental registration certificate on November 8th, 2023. At that time, we were processing between 30 or 45 days for an application to be processed, with a potential issuance date of the certificate around December 23rd, 2023. It was found that a violation on November 13th, 2023 occurred. The elements that led to the issuance of the citation is in your staff report as numbered 1 through 5. Additionally, the code officer that investigated the property is here this evening, I believe attending via Zoom, to provide further information relating to what led to the investigation of the property and then eventually the issuance of the citation. I would invite Code Officer Gonzalez to provide further testimony on that investigation. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board, my fellow city staff, and members of the public with us tonight. My name is Jacob Gonzalez. I'm a co-compliance officer for the city of Palm Springs. On November 13th, 2023, while conducting a review of available rental listings on the web-based booking platform Airbnb.com, I came across an advertisement near the Tahquitz Creek Golf Resort or golf course, neighborhood titled Palm Springs Oasis Pools, Jacuzzis, and Views, which can be found in attachment 5 of the staff report. While reviewing the advertisement, it stated that the entire townhome was being offered for a short-term stay with a minimum night stay of 3 nights. I was unable to find the city ID number posted or listed in the advertisement, which is required for registered vacation rental properties within the city of Palm Springs. So I reviewed the photos contained within the ad and was able to positively identify the property address as 1900 Lawrence Crosley Road, number 3. Upon review of the city's vacation rental records, I confirmed that the property identified did not hold a vacation rental certificate. I then sent a message via the Airbnb.com contact host feature inquiring about the week-long stay in December. The message was, hello, I was looking to book for about a week in December, 12/24 through 12/30. I was wondering about how far this was from downtown, how far from downtown this was. The host, Carly, responded to me with a unique message. And the response was, hello, we are about 8 to 10 minutes from downtown Palm Springs. And then subsequently sent me an invitation to book my requested short-term stay of 6 nights, December 24th through December 30th. This exchange is included in the staff report as attachment number 6. As a result of my findings, with the advertisement and the unique response to my inquiry, as well as the invitation to book the 6-night stay, I found that the property located at 1900 Lawrence Crosley Road, number 3, was in violation of Palm Springs Municipal Code 5.25/040A, operation of a vacation rental without a vacation rental certificate, and issued the citation AB 0621 to the property owner on title. And that'll conclude what I have to present. I'll hand it back to Patrick, but I am available for questions if there are any.
Thank you, Officer. Patrick, anything more?
Nothing further, Chair, thank you.
Any questions from the board?
I have one. Do we know if the HOA here allows short-term rentals?
I am not too sure.
Okay.
I would defer to Code Officer Gonzalez if he knows. I can definitely look up to see if we have other properties in the community, and which would not say they don't allow, but at least we know if they do allow.
Got it. Okay. I'm just
For this particular property, I do not know the answer to that one. I don't believe there's less than 30-night stay in HOAs in general, but for this particular community, I'm not too sure.
Okay, thank you. And can you guys remind me, does the application for the certificate state on there, do not advertise until you have the certificate in hand? Or what is that? What is that language?
Yes, there is language on there, I believe, where the signature page is, it's close to the signature page where it says you're not authorized to operate the vacation rental to receive written authorization from city staff. I can pull up the exact information for you, exactly what that information says. So.
Okay.
So this is only an advertising case.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the whole basis for the case is that they advertise before the license. It's not whether anybody stayed there. It's
That's
just
correct.
an advertising case.
I have a question. Can you remind me of the timeline? So they did an application in 2023, November of 2023, but your investigation was when?
So I issued the site that would have been sent out November 13th.
Okay. So, and I guess what I'm trying to get at was the application done after the citation?
Excuse me, I misspoke on the correct date on that one. So this was actually sent out November 17th. I don't send out a citation until the property's been reviewed, and so the inquiries were sent beforehand. On the citation, the date of the violation would have been noted on November 13th. The citation was sent out on November 17th.
Okay. And then, but also that same month, they applied for a permit. Is that correct?
I'll refer back to Patrick for the day that they applied for the permit.
November 8th is what I'm looking at. I think that's right.
Yeah, let me pull up the staff report here. So we received a completed application on November 8th, 2023.
Okay, thank you.
And just to answer board member's question, that under the application, there's a section important information before applying. That says you're not authorized to advertise or otherwise operate a vacation rental until you receive specific written authorization from DSPC, which is our department. Administrative fines and penalties will apply with a note referencing our municipal code and the fine amount and permanent eligibility.
Thank you, Patrick.
No further questions from me. Yeah.
This time then I would like to open the administrative appeal hearing. Colin is invited to speak for up to 10 minutes. Any member of the public who wishes to speak. This hearing shall be allowed to speak for 3 minutes, and if there's any rebuttal, they will be allowed 2 additional minutes. Please state your name and begin your testimony.
Good evening, my name is Parthi Leo. I'm the owner of 1900 Lawrence Crosley number 3. Excuse me if I cry, I'm a little emotional about this. First time go around at anything like this. Never been a vacation homeowner. been an Airbnb host. My family and I bought this for us and our kids May of last year. And it was a complete oversight. I didn't realize we needed this vacation rental certificate. Just to answer the question, Mountain Shadows, I have the actual letter too from the HOA. Short-term rentals are allowed in our condominium community. So that's kind of why we bought there, since we can't be there full time. So our plan was to be there in the summer and supplement some of our income on the off months. And I was just one step ahead of myself. I put it up on Airbnb and I actually didn't realize whatsoever that there was any ordinance with the city. And I did wrong. I didn't do my due diligence and look. Again, first time, didn't know, learning curve, big time. But about 2 weeks in on the Airbnb experience and just going through and toggling and navigating the platform, I realized where it said to upload your certificate code. And I was like, what is this? So I start looking it up, and that very day, I completed the application. I submitted the check. I certified mailed it. It was actually on October 28th with a signature. Palm Springs, probably your office remembers me because I called about 13 times making sure that it was received. It was lost in the mail. I had to track it down. It was in Santa Ana, California. It was a mess. So it took until, I thought it was November 3rd, but you're saying it was received the 8th. And I also called to, once it was verified and received, I asked when the inspection date would be, and it was November 21st. So I made a point to be out there in person to have the inspection done. And I worked close too with the special programs department to make sure I had a checklist of like everything that was needed. I was trying to make it right because I acted too fast. And from my understanding, once I passed on the 21st, you know, thus forward, I would be okay, or we'd be on track and in compliance, and I do everything that I need to do to maintain compliance with all the regulations and contract summaries and TOT and all that kind of stuff. In the meantime, I was on Airbnb for maybe 3 weeks. And the only people that were there were us and 2 friends and family who did some work for us. I'm just asking to let us continue doing this so we can keep it. It wasn't my intention. We love Palm Springs. I want to be a part of the community. My kids love it. And I'm sorry.
Anything further? Is that it?
That's it.
Thanks.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. Patrick?
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to add a few things. My apologies that I didn't know the answer for if the HOA allowed it. Respectively, we would not have received an application and process it if an HOA said no anyway. So the point that we received an application that was completed would say that we received an HOA letter to give an authorization. So my apologies, I should have caught that. Second, in most cases, when we provide staff reports with an application that we receive, we usually show a screenshot or an attachment with respect to the safety inspection that was conducted, where in most cases there's verbiage there that says that that's communicated from the safety inspector that no advertisement, this doesn't give you authority to advertise and operate. I did look at that safety inspection. With this certain safety inspection, that verbiage was not there. Although the application says that there's obviously no advertisement in operation, usually we do a follow-up with a safety inspection of additional communication in that email that sent out says you're not authorized. And usually I provide that in the staff report, but in this point, that was not communicated.
Thank you. Questions of the appellant?
I have one. Thank you for your testimony. Your appeals letter mentioned that you were learning, and I'm I'm quoting, but I'm not sure I have it correctly, so correct me if I'm wrong. Through other websites and community blogs about vacation rentals in Palm Springs. Why not just apply that methodology to the Palm Springs city website? There's a whole vacation center, vacation rental tab, I think, on the website that lists everything that's required.
So once I was reading on Airbnb, what was the other thing, I feel like Airbnb needs to do better about giving us those kind of notifications, because I know it was referenced earlier. I was on it for about 2-3 weeks and I never got any sort of notification. It was just me navigating the platform, and in that time Airbnb upgraded, and so it was like this, I finally got used to kind of like what it was doing, and then it changed. And there's just a lot of different little things you can click into, like it's literally very in depth. But from that point on, I started to learn. Because of the learning curve, I needed to know more about what was required in the city. And I sought out different organizations just for insight on how to handle this. And pretty much the only thing I could gather was just make it right as quickly as possible.
To that point, which you just said, I'm just curious, when I think in your testimony, you said you were going through the Airbnb site and then you noticed that it said certificate number and you're like, what is this? And that's sort of when you found out.
That's what kind of catapulted everything.
So I'm just curious, why didn't you just pull down the ad right there?
Because I had future bookings and I was trying to main face, I was kind of between a rock and a hard place. I was up, I was active, you get scrutinized for every cancellation, all that kind of stuff, which I did end up canceling all my December ones to get through to this testimony and everything like that. So nothing has been going on since I received it in hand. I received it on November 23rd or 22nd with signature, and everything stopped from then on. And I also changed, which this is my stupidity, is just changing it to the 28 days. So once I received that citation, and actually it was the gentleman who did the inspection who had mentioned something about the 28 days, and then it was a light bulb, and I was like, I need to switch it to 28 days because I wasn't renting anyways. I didn't change the settings. I was, again, just very new to this learning curve, and I assure you, if you're able to grant me some mercy, everything will be.
Okay, and I think you heard us earlier with reference to the 29 days actually is whatever we decide here doesn't change that. You can still rent it for long term, 29 days or for longer. It's just the short term rentals that's the issue. I don't have any other questions.
Vice Chair?
So I guess my question is gonna be similar to yours. So looking at the compliance officer reached out to you to ask about that week in December. That was early in November. Was that before you knew anything about the certificate?
No, I'd already applied for the certificate.
Okay, then I guess my question would be kind of piggybacking on yours. You sent them an invitation to actually book short term, knowing that you didn't have the actual permit yet.
So from what I was understanding when I contacted the office was on November 21st, after the inspection was completed, that everything was moving forward. And that was my understanding.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions?
None for me.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Leon. Board discussion?
Well, it's unfortunate because as Ms. Leon stated, this was not an intentional situation. However, the violation occurred. And I think our hands are tied relative to the provision, et cetera. Yeah.
So I'm struggling with this one a little bit. I agree with what you said, that, there's obviously an admission that there was a violation. We've been through this hundreds of times, probably. What is giving me a little bit of pause is, the city's testimony that on this, inspection letter, it didn't have the verbiage, which is just one more reminder that you're not authorized to advertise or rent until you get written authorization. Now, what I'm struggling with is that is already, as we know from all these cases, is already pointed out to the homeowner applicant multiple times. So does that one missing a reminder, is that, does that excuse the violation? I'm struggling with, I don't know. Again, the city brings that up so many times. And just because on that letter that they passed the inspection, it didn't say it, I just don't know that, to me, that disqualifies the violation.
The red flag, though, was the fact that perhaps the appellant should have followed up when it asked for a registration number and it wasn't applied. Isn't that perhaps a red flag to go, I need to see what this is about?
And, I think you make a good point, is that if there had been a response to the inquiry that said, I can't take a short term until I understand if I'm in compliance with the city, we wouldn't be here. But the fact is that there was a response.
Invitation.
Yeah, and then an invitation to book.
Yeah.
So.
Can I interject for a second?
No, you're done. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, you ready for a motion? It's your turn.
Go, it's your turn.
I would move to uphold the fine and the ban on getting a permit.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Board Secretary?
Vice Chair Panessa,
Aye.
Board Member Parker,
Aye.
Chair Sinclair.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0 to adopt the resolution upholding the administrative decision.
Okay, we're on to next hearing. Next is item 8 concerning the property located at 1036 Barrymore Place. It is the appeal of a $5,000 fine and administrative decision of Randall Viadas and William Reeves are permanently eligible to operate a vacation rental in the city of Palm Springs. Board Secretary, please ensure that the city staff and the appellant understand that their testimony is under oath.
It's 1306, you said 10.
Did I say 10? Yeah, 1306. So bifocals.
We do have signed affidavits from city staff and appellant in person. Anyone on Zoom who desires to testify under this appeal hearing, under the laws of perjury, if you choose to speak, you hereby accept and acknowledge your testimony shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You may begin.
Is there somebody here?
City. Sorry, city.
Oh, the city, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm having a senior moment. Hey, Patrick, you can sit if you'd like, or both of you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, Board Member, City Staff, public joining us this evening. My name is Patrick Clifford, Department of Special Program Compliance. We oversee the vacation rental program here in the city of Palm Springs. The staff report for you this evening is for the property located at 1306 Barrymore Place there in Palm Springs. And it was found that this property did not hold a valid vacation rental registration certificate on the date of violation of November 13th, 2023. The elements that led to the issuance and citation is included in your staff reports. Also, the code compliance officer that investigated the property is here via Zoom to provide further testimony on what led to the investigation and the issuance of the citation. I would invite Code Officer Gonzalez to provide further testimony. Thank you.
You're up, Officer Gonzalez.
Good evening. I'm Officer Jacob Gonzalez. I'm with Code Compliance for the City of Palm Springs. On November 12th, 2023, we're conducting a review of available rental listings on the web-based booking platform, Airbnb.com. I came across an advertisement near the El Mirador neighborhood titled Mirador Spanish State by Avant Stay, Pool Casita, which can be found on attachment number 5 in the staff report. While reviewing the advertisement, it stated that the entire 3-bedroom home was available for up to 8 guests was being offered for short-term stays with the minimum night stay of 4 nights, which can be seen on pages 36 and 43 of the staff report. I was unable to find a city ID number listed as required for the registered vacation rental properties in Palm Springs, so I reviewed the photos contained within the ad. I was able to positively identify the property as 1306 Barrymore Place. Upon review of the city's vacation rental registration records, I confirmed that the property identified did not hold a vacation rental certificate. I then sent a message via Airbnb contact host feature inquiring about a week-long stay in January. The message was, hello, I was looking to book for about a week in January, 114 to 120, and was wondering about how far away this was from downtown. The host, Avant Stay Palm Springs, responded to my inquiry and subsequently extended an invitation to book this property for the dates of January 14th through the 20th. This was signed by Joe Jomar with Avant Stay. A second message sent to the host inquiring about additional details related to the property was met with additional response from the host, Avant Stay Palm Springs, which was signed Janum with Avant Stay. This exchange is included in the staff report as attachment 6 on pages 46 and 47. As a result of my findings contained within the advertisement, the unique response to my inquiry, as well as the invitation to book the 6-night stay, I found the property located at 1306 Barrymore Place in violation of Palm Springs Municipal Code 525-040A, operating a vacation rental without a vacation rental certificate. And then I issued the citation AB0622 to the property owner on title, Randall G. Bidas and William K. Reeves. And that will conclude what I have to present. I'm available for any questions if there are any. Otherwise, I'll hand it back to Patrick.
Mr. Clifford?
I have nothing further, Chair. Thank you.
Questions from the board? Vice Chair Panessa?
Just a quick clarification. If you mentioned this, was this found just in your routine investigations, or was it some sort of a lead?
I believe with this particular property, this would have been just a proactive search on Airbnb.com.
All right, thank you. That's it for me.
Yeah, I don't have a question.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. At this time, I'd like to open the appeal board hearing. The appellant is invited to speak for up to 10 minutes. Any members of the public who wish to speak have an additional 3 minutes. And if there is any, you have rebuttal of 2 minutes. So please state your name and begin your testimony.
Good evening. I'm Randy Batis, and together with my spouse, we own 1306 Barrymore Place. I think in the packet we sent in we have Fiona here representing Avant Stay. They are the management company that we engaged in August of this year. They are the third management company. So this obviously, we got our notice that came as a big surprise. We do have a photo shoot that there was a notice that came through that there was some type of a short-term rental, and I immediately said this is a mistake. I mean, this just is not how we operate. So we've had this home built primarily when we bought into the complex of 36 homes. We spent a lot of time, a lot of money building our home. Our modus operandi was to rent it out monthly, take care of the place, and let the market rise. We had no intention of this, even before short-term rentals became an issue. So you can see through the evidence that this house has always been maintained and operated as a long-term home. When we built in the colony, there was not a ordinance, a community ordinance, within the association rather, of 30 days. That came later. We think probably 04, 05, once all the homes got done and the homeowners association took over. So that's why you have Ralph. Ralph also was third, he was the last house to sell in there. He sat on the board, he sits on committees, he knows us quite well. We've become very good friends. His letter can vouch for the fact that we've never had any incidences or even an inkling that we've had anybody there. I mean, it's not even a thought. We don't have 4 bedrooms. We have 3 bedrooms. We've never had 8 people in our house, even with the long-term rental. We only have 3 or 4 guests a year. They're mostly grandparents. And we know them because we offer cleaning every 2 weeks. We have a home manager, make sure they're familiar with the neighborhood. We go out of our way to make sure this is a balance with the neighbors. So basically, you know, I think when this did come through, it's important that we did have we had 2 vetoes here. One was the HOA would not allow it. And secondly, the homeowners would not allow it. Fiona here will explain how the posting operated. I am a Luddite. I don't operate much on the computer. I call the hotel. I don't even use booking.com. I never use Airbnb. I don't know what a platform is. So she can explain all this to you. But I do know that when this came to the attention, that things do take time. Things don't happen, you know, overnight. But they got on it and they corrected the problem. And that's all I can say. And that this is, as I do have here, just to show you that this is something I found. This is when our second management company was in October. We hired them in October 2010. 1 month minimum stay required. This home has a 30-day minimum stay requirement. So we have consistently been proactive in maintaining this house and staying away from the short-term rentals. We are very sensitive to the whole issue because I sit on a board in a small town and we deal with this all of a sudden in the last 3 years because we're a resort town. And this has just imploded. And I've often used Palm Springs City as an example how the city has what's coming our way. So I'm not used to sitting on this end of the table, but believe me, I fully understand where we are here. And I am willing to answer any questions that you might have regarding that, but Fiona can explain the balance of this thing for me.
Does that work best if I speak and then? Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for taking time to hear our case this evening. My name is Fiona Quinn. I represent Avant Stay. We're a property management company that's been operating in good standing in the city since 2018. And we operate both short and long-term rentals, so stays of 29 days to 12 months plus. As you've heard, neither the owner nor Avant Stay ever intended to advertise or operate the property as a vacation rental. Inquiries were unfortunately allowed of 30 days or less temporarily as a result of a system error when Avant Stay moved to a new revenue management system called Wheelhouse, and that changed the property's booking availability to less than 29 days. Unfortunately, as the co-compliance officer has mentioned, Avant Stay's offshore customer experience team are not trained in regulations and did not know how to respond to these inquiries appropriately. As a large company with over 200 employees that operates properties across over 100 different jurisdictions, sometimes people make mistakes. And generally we have checks and balances in place to ensure that reservation would never go through. And that was what was the owner notification, in which case Randy said this was not to go through. However, we still needed to take down the notice and the advertisement was still up, and that was the issue that came through here. This is supported by the documents that we shared with you previously. That's a letter from the revenue management system, which notes that the fault was theirs, and that's what caused the booking malfunction on our website. I'll also note that we have a property management system that manages all of our 1,600 properties, and we pushed about 40 different websites. It's a lot of different technology to kind of work across, and so there are errors sometimes that happen. I do note that in your ordinance and in your regulations, you do provide the onus on the operator to show that we've made every possible effort to make sure that our listings are accurate, and we certainly have tried to do that. So we've included this letter from Wheelhouse. We've included screenshots from the listing, and just to be clear on what the co-compliance officer has mentioned in his testimony is that the booking listing itself still said, the wording was on the listing the entire time that said this property is only available for 28 days plus in text. It was just the actual booking functionality that allowed to book for more than 4 days. So that was what the issue was. It wasn't actually the listing that said, this is a vacation rental, this is a short-term rental. The text listing always said that this is a long-term rental only. And then obviously a message from the owner which noted that this was there for the intention that we should remove any short-term rental listing immediately. So furthermore, the citation and violation issue referenced operating a vacation rental without a permit, which did not occur. Again, I provided more context in my documentation circulated prior to the meeting. The definition of operations to include advertising is not included within the code itself. And the vacation rental administrative regulation from 2017 referenced in the appeal packet
It's not searchable on the internet. It's not in the code. It's not in the vacation rental toolkit that's on the website. So incredibly difficult to access. I do understand that that's available and that's somewhere, but that's something that I've never seen before. And again, I've been working with short-term rentals in the city since 2018. And so that was a surprise for me. Again, I understand and will 100% comply with that on a go-forward basis, but that was new information for me. And so, as you've noted, the ordinance is very strict. However, the only violation of the ordinance that occurred was that we accidentally, through a technical error, advertised a vacation rental as defined by section 525.90D, which would solicit a different violation than the one that we've been given. The violation prescribed is extremely severe, which will cause significant hardship to the two outstanding members of the Palm Springs community who have done no harm, due to a systems and a personnel error by our property management company, which we obviously feel terrible about, and the administering of an incorrect citation. We request the board continues its position as a strict but equitable regulator of short-term rentals and overturns the decision to render the property owners permanently ineligible from being able to operate a vacation rental in Palm Springs. Thank you.
Any further?
Just one thing, I noticed on Fiona's letter, she mentioned the the fine, and also I think for us, it's also just the fact that this thing goes on our deed, or how, I'm not sure how you manage this with the restriction, but we're in HOA and that we were not entitled to do it anyways, even if we wanted to. So you could argue, well, that's a moot question, but just the whole idea though, that this would be an infringement on our deed is just bothersome. And who knows, in 10 years that HOA could change their mind, you don't know. So it is important to us. I don't see it frivolous. The fact that the HOA already mandates we have to have 30 nights or monthly to be a resident. And we would have no intention of even wanting to do that, less than that. But that's on top of the $5,000 fine that Avant Stay has paid for us. So it is, we do take it to heart, to have that on our I think you put it on our deed. I don't know how you do the restriction.
It does not follow, it does not follow the deed.
But it is there. So if I sell the property, then it's gone. Is that what you're saying?
The
So
fine,
permanent.
Patrick should really address this.
You say permanent.
It's permanent, but it's on you,
On you.
not the house.
Oh, it's not on the house.
That's what-
Oh, okay. Well, then I back off on that. Sorry. I wondered how we're going to do that. Okay. It doesn't really say specifically to that, but okay. Very good. Thanks. Yeah.
Well, that actually brings up one of my questions to you, Mr.
Davis, yeah.
Which was, so I was confused at the appeal because it sounded like your documentation is saying you always intended it to be a long-term rental. So you're not really appealing the permanent inability to do short-term rental. Is that right?
We're appealing the decision that this violated this ordinance, which calls us operating and advertising. And I don't think we did either of those.
Maintaining advertising.
Maintaining for short-term rental or operating a short-term rental. I mean, under the code, from what I gather, and given what the limited, that this was a very small mistake with listing on the internet. We're not in that category. We don't operate, never have operated a short-term rental, not even within our mind. In fact, it's like a disaster to us. And then, and also maintaining, what did we maintain? I mean, we never maintained anything on the internet, at least I didn't, or through my agent, Avant. There was obviously, somehow there was an opening there and it got caught and I caught it, but I didn't bring it down in time, apparently, but I did bring notice and they acted on that notice. So.
To that point, there's no intention to run the property. So short-term rental, it's more to ensure that both of our records, property management company, again, we love working with Palm Springs. It's a great jurisdiction that's got best practice regulations. So both Avant Stay and the owner, just to have it kind of marked in the record and have the correct citation, should it be advertising the owner record instead.
Any other questions?
I'm just, can you repeat what you just said? I'm still confused because it sounds to me like the issue is kind of moot. If your intention is only to rent long-term, any permanent disbarment of you, not your home, you from doing
Right.
short-term rental, it sounds like it's a moot point.
Well, except for the $5,000 is not muted. That's a lot of money. So the fact that this was lodged so quickly and without even a question of saying, Mr. Bates, you know what's going on. Well, like, you should know what's going on, you know, even your agent, but this is not
But
even
you're
my agent.
appealing, you're appealing the fine, not the inability to do short-term
We're
rentals.
feeling the
Well,
citation was
the
issued in
citation
error.
They go
The
together.
citation was
Citation.
issued in
Yeah.
error. It's not,
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
Okay.
not that it was.
but you're right.
But we don't have any intention to
right,
operate.
there's no damages from me on our point if, yeah, we're not, yeah, that, you're right, that's a moot point
Okay.
in terms of the 30-day. I thought I was running with the property, so I was mistaken on that.
And then one last question, Fiona, for you, and I'm sorry, I don't recall your last name, so may I call you Fiona?
Of course.
You mentioned the other party involved, which I
Yes.
think was the platform Wheelhouse.
Revenue
That's like the
management
accounting or.
Like it's an integration, sorry, it's an integration for the property management system. So it
Okay.
actually is what sets pricing for all our reservations across the platform. So it actually is the link between our property management system and the online travel agency.
So you pushed to them,
Airbnb.
they pushed to Airbnb.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And they said that they're happy to answer any questions offline. They weren't able to appear tonight, but you have the contact.
Yeah, I saw their letter too. Thank you.
So based on what you just said, I have a question for you. So, I'm not familiar with, your management company uses a platform that you set parameters on that platform.
Correct.
And then it pushes it to the various portals, if you
Correct.
will.
Yeah.
Okay, so is it safe to say that somebody, whether incorrectly or correct or intentionally, set it up so that it would allow for a short term, even though the owner has been pretty clear that they didn't want a short term?
It would be correct to say that the revenue management system, Wheelhouse, who provided the letter in the packet, they had set it up incorrectly as a short-term rental, correct, without the owners or our advice. From the owner's side, from the inputs that we put in, it was always a 29-day minimum. However, being pushed through, they must have set it up incorrectly, correct, yes.
Okay, and then based on the owner's pretty adamant, had never intended to do short term. I'm having an issue with, and I guess I'd like to hear from you, why somebody in your staff would accept a short term.
I asked myself the same question. I mean, it's underperformance twice, exactly. Two different offshore team members, our customer experience team of 30 people. The nighttime people are all international. And as mentioned, unfortunately, we give them all of the guides to the 100+ jurisdictions we're in. But clearly they weren't accessing it. And so they just saw a reservation come through and wanted to push it through. I will add that there is another step that requires owner approval for any of these property management agreements. So where we do effectively revenue share with the owner and do it on their behalf, that they approve all reservations. So that's the final check and balance, which is making sure that every reservation that comes through is actually legitimate. And that's where we're arguing that never happened. Yes, we had 100%, I agree, the communications were not as they should have been. And that's where I'd say, you know, happy to pay the fine for the advertisement because that was not correct. And because that, you know, there was underperformance on some of my team, they provided the wrong information. That's human error. And, you know, that was not the intention. There were no operations that occurred. There was no maintenance of the advertisement and there were no damages that occurred.
Okay. And I guess I would like to say, because you had said that there was no advertisement, the fact that it's been, I think I want to speak for myself, the fact that it's on Airbnb is an advertisement.
Well, I think that's up to contention myself, because what is advertising? You know, you have these big words. I don't want to get into an argument here on technology, but you're using these words that aren't really explained elsewhere, I don't think, in the code. So we have, what is advertising? You have this maintenance. What are we maintaining? I think they kind of go hand in hand. You're maintaining an operation of a short-term rental in view. That's what we were trying to regulate. So advertising is doing these platforms on Airbnb, creating all this pictures and getting all this right for the short-term people, because short-term rentals are it's a whole different ballgame than long-term rentals. And even the houses are different. So it's like, I don't see that as an advertisement in my mind. At least that's my argument. I see it more as a mistake that was put out on a platform without any authorization. So if someone wanted to actually pay for it, they couldn't. You could not do that.
So if your testimony is that putting it on a platform to reach the public is not advertisement. What is advertisement?
Well, if it's a limited amount of time, it was on, it was off. It was not, you know, I don't know how Airbnb works. I don't know if they have a contract that allows them to do all this. But they certainly weren't authorized to put it up. So it's an unauthorized ad, I guess, but is it an advertising that you could actually pay? No, you couldn't have bought those rooms. There's no way you could have bought those rooms. So then you could say, well, that's false advertising. But at some point, that notice, I would call it more of a notice, I guess, if you're going to get technical. Or I would say it is an advertising, but does it fall within this intent of this ordinance to prevent people from actually listing units, bedrooms, houses on a short-term basis under 28 days? And I don't think we fall in that category. That's my argument. I just don't think. Perhaps technically, yep, once you get out there, that's it, man. You got the whole world at your beck and call. But did we really maintain, or do we really advertise? Do we hire somebody to put this little thing together? No. It's almost like they stole our information, misappropriated, I guess, not stole it, but they misappropriated our information, repackaged it, and put it out there for a short
time. So is it then, sorry, no, go ahead. Is it then your testimony that your agent did not have authorization to put it on those platforms?
They did not have authorization to put it on Airbnb as a short term, as without those restrictions. That's correct. Yeah.
So, but you're saying they did have authorization to put it there. You just did not intend for it to be short term.
No, I don't think nor did they. That's correct. Because in our engagement letter, they are authorized to use third agents. That's correct. In their putting the house out there, but they were well aware themselves at the time from the day one that this was a strictly a monthly rental. So
sorry, just to clarify, Airbnb is used for medium and long-term rentals as well. So that's why we used that platform for that reason. Yeah. It was just the booking functionality, and to the point of advertising, the ordinance says maintaining advertisements. So that's up for question. But the intention using Airbnb, having the verbiage in the actual listing that said that this was a long-term rental only, was just the booking functionality. So that's the kind of technicality.
And I appreciate that. And I understand that. I guess my question is, his testimony is that they took the information without your authorization, and I think that's not true.
Yeah, I gave them the authorization and they clearly had that, but I don't think it was obviously not handled correctly by this third party, because they didn't have the authorization because they couldn't have collected the money. You know, they put something out there, a product that they really couldn't collect on. So in a way, they were selling something they didn't have. They didn't have those rooms to sell for 4 days, 5 days. They weren't there.
Anything else, Michael?
No.
The date of the citation was November 11th. And the date that the change to your group was August 23rd. Is that correct? Or was that the day of the wheelhouse?
August
23rd.
August 23rd might have been our engagement letter.
Engagement.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what.
Are you asking for the citation date?
And no, I know the citation date. I'm asking. I just made a note that the change was made on the testimony by the compliance officer. A change was made on August 23rd.
So that was potentially when we began being responsible for managing the listing.
And when did Wheelhouse then come into the picture? What was the date?
It was between, I mean, it was a long rollout, but it was between August and October.
Well, my question would be, if it was 2 months, just over 2 months, why didn't someone catch it before then?
I'm not sure when the property was available for short-term rentals. Like I said, I'm not sure when that was rolled out.
Well, if it was, my understanding was that it was rolled out on August 23rd.
No.
With the,
no.
Let me finish if I may.
Okay, sorry.
You spared your testimony.
Okay. Yeah, right. Yeah.
So my understanding from the testimony was that it was that the change in the rollout was August 23rd.
Do you mind if I respond?
No, please do.
No, August 23rd is just when we started taking over the property. I don't believe that the listing was active from August. We signed an agreement with Wheelhouse possibly in August, but the full transition didn't happen until the end of October. early November. I can get
What
specific
does full
dates.
transition mean? Does that mean it was not up
We did it.
on Airbnb? Let me finish if I may.
Sorry, it's fine.
Does that mean that Airbnb did not have this before a date that you haven't been able to tell me?
Yes,
So do you have any idea what that date is?
I would say
Do
end
you
of
know-
October. I
do you
don't have
know
a
when that
specific
date was?
date. No, because we did it market by market, and then it was up to the platform whether or not, when they actually made that change to the number of bookings. Like, we had it listed as a medium-term rental beforehand on Airbnb, and then when the revenue management integration actually occurred, I'm not sure when that went live. It could have been, it was end of October.
Well, it
and so
could have been
everything was
anytime.
done by,
So you can't give me a date when that happened.
but we only started rolling that out in October, so I don't think it was any.
1st of October, the 20th of October, the end of
I'd say
October?
end of October.
But you don't know that for
I know
sure.
that it was all of our markets were live in the first week of November.
Might I add, I have a note here from Randy Betas to Connor with Avance Day. And it says, "Good day, as the public listing of our first home with Avance Day is nearly complete." This is dated October 26th. So it has to be in that area.
Well, I'd really like a date, but this has to be nice, but I still don't have a date.
Yeah, but it has to be.
My question is, should somebody, when it went up, whatever the date that went live was, should somebody have caught it? Is what my question is.
If we
Because
were
it was at least in 3 weeks before the citation was issued.
from October 26th to November,
14.
Absolutely, but I'm not sure if that is when it was live. That's unfortunate. We don't get notified when the number of nights you can reserve changes.
So the board can pick a date.
You can pick a date between. So what, can you please clarify that question?
Well, you said it went on August, October 23rd was a
October
close time, and
26th
then this, I'm trying to pin down the fact of how long somebody had to find the error. And whether anybody looked and said, oh, this is wrong, I need to get it down right away. And that's what my question is, and it sounds like you can't supply me with that time.
I have a final date and I have messages that show that the final transition happened by November 7th. Would like to use that date.
But you don't know
if it
whether
happens
this one transitioned
November 1st.
before that.
Yeah, correct. I'd say between November 1st and November 7th.
So it could have been October 23rd when this one
No, because there were
transitioned.
it was
But can
not.
I finish sometimes? You know, well, that's enough. I'm done. Thank you for your testimony. Okay, we have discussion.
I go back to what I originally said. I'm not, I hear and understand what the appellant was saying, but I don't see the issue if the intent was never to be a short-term rental from that perspective.
I don't think.
That being said.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
That being said, the ad was up, an invitation was extended, and a violation occurred.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is I think, and council can correct me, I don't think this is an intent statute. I don't think intent has anything to do with it. Whether you intend to or don't intend to. It's just the basic fact that it was up. Discussion?
From my perspective, I think I would agree with you. I mean, there was, regardless of who made the mistake was when somebody requested to book short term, that was accepted and they were invited to book. The ordinance, we have been through it hundreds of times. The ordinance is really clear that advertising is the same as operating. I don't accept that putting it up on Airbnb is not advertising. The point of putting it up there or any portal is to reach people. So I think that's a kind of mincing of words trying to get around the intent of the ordinance. And I don't accept that that it's not. We have seen the verbiage in the ordinance that says advertising is considered operating. That from the city attorney has been clarified to us dozens of times. So I guess the good news for the appellant is he never intended to rent it short term anyway. But that doesn't mean there wasn't an infraction. And so, you know, that's why we're here.
Any other discussion?
No.
Motion,
I'll move that we uphold.
second,
I'll second.
board secretary,
Board Member Parker,
Aye.
Vice Chair Vanessa,
Aye.
Chair Sinclair,
aye,
motion carries 3-0 to adopt the resolution upholding the administrative decision.
thank you, this concludes our hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We need to approve the minutes of December 27th, 2023.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Discussion, all in favor of board
Vice Chair
secretary?
Vanessa,
Aye.
Board Member Parker,
Aye.
Chair Sinclair,
Aye,
motion carries 3-0 to approve the minutes.
I think with only 3 of us here, item number 10, we should continue till next time. So
We need to do that anyway. Patrick and I did discuss, that Annie had a question out to Abe, which I think Abe answered, but we haven't been able to
take the other
get
way.
back and talk about that yet. So
So
we'll
do
come
we
back.
need a
next month.
motion to do that, or can we just?
So just
And,
for next month.
And if you can use your city email for
Yeah.
city business.
I saw Abe's reminder of that, and I saw yours.
Yeah.
But now I have to go back and, because when I heard the discussion last, I think, oh, never mind.
Right.
So I have to go back and restart it all
It's
again, so.
And I could, so we just found out today that there might be an issue with if you try to do it on like the Outlook app, it might not work. So you might have to just go to outlook.com because it's Microsoft, it's Outlook 365.
Through the
So
web.
yeah, it might not work on your
Yeah,
app.
I
if you have
tried
an
to
app.
add it to my Outlook so that I
Yeah.
could see it and it wouldn't. but
Apparently
I
there's
have
a
not
new
tried.
license that IT told us about, that there's the license that we have for the board members' emails don't support in the app. So I don't know if they're gonna update that at some point or if that's just how it is and it's gonna be online, so.
Speaking of being a Luddite, I don't know anything that we just talked about.
I
Okay,
have the same issue because I have one per person, I don't know where I'm gonna see this other.
Yeah.
Just online.
Other than having to go onto the web and look at it manually.
Yeah, which I think we're gonna have to do for a while.
okay, board
Yeah,
member
the same.
comments and requests.
None for me.
Do we know yet what's on how many are on the agenda for next month?
5.
Okay. Do you have a limit?
5,
Okay.
that's it.
Thank you.
Okay. I practiced law too many years in courtroom, and I apologize for getting a little heated today, but I get upset when people don't listen to me and interrupt me too many times. City attorney's reports and comments.
I have nothing to add at this time.
Thank you. Anything from the clerk's office?
Nope, nothing to add. Next meeting is February 28th at 5:30.
Then we're adjourned.
Thank you. I'll be all nice and tan, right back from vacation.